Border Town Betrayal, a John Rivera thriller. Chapter 1. A Morning Interrupted. The cool, early morning air felt good on John's face as he sipped his strong black cup of coffee in a ceramic mug on the patio of a locally owned, small coffee shop on the corner of Mesa Street in El Paso, Texas. It was barely 5 a.m., and the sun had yet to rise. The coffee shop was lit up in the darkness of the morning, warm and inviting. A couple of old-fashioned lamps illuminated the outside patio. Otherwise, the street and the town were still asleep and covered in darkness. It was his favorite time of day, peaceful and quiet. The air was calm before the beating sun rose like clockwork at 6:30 a.m. The right door to the coffee shop remained open, and John enjoyed the soothing sounds of the baristas making espresso and pouring the dark brew that he and others needed to get the morning going. The low hum of Johnny Cash singing Ring of Fire came from the house speakers overhead. Other early risers would occasionally go into this hidden gem to order their usuals. John greeted a few he saw daily with a courteous morning. His phone rested on the small round coffee table in front of him, its screen reflecting the latest news. More crime in the city, the war in Ukraine and the Middle East, the presidential elections, and more gossip about Taylor Swift. Same garbage, different day. He turned his phone off, which was his new morning newspaper, and just reclined, enjoying the atmosphere and smells of delicious coffee, tuning out the world's problems, and just enjoying the quiet hum of a new day beginning. The sky was still blanketed in millions of stars. He would sit here and drink his coffee, enjoying the stillness of the morning until the sun rose. He loved his new morning routine. John had been the sheriff of this town for over 20 years and was physically and mentally exhausted. Retirement had been a welcome reprieve. No more endless hours of paperwork or dealing as a mediator with disputing families or dealing with the scum of the earth on a daily basis. El Paso is a border town, and the cartel's presence was often felt. He was sick of drugs coming across the border and poisoning and destroying lives. But that was in the past. He'd worked hard to keep the city clean and safe. Now, it was just him, his coffee, and the quiet moments of solitude. These moments were sacred to him. He had earned them. But as he reclined, the piercing sound of shattering glass and screeching tires ripped through the silence, disrupting his morning routine at the cafe. Across the street, the wide display window of Martinez Jewelers exploded violently with a loud crash, showering glass across the sidewalk like shattered ice. The screech of a black SUV's tires echoed through the otherwise still morning with an alarm bell now ringing loudly. The SUV smashed through the front of the store. The SUV's engine was left on, and 5 armed men, faces masked and bodies clothed in black, emerged from the SUV like dark silhouettes. They moved with precision. Their actions were quick and efficient. They all wore headlamps to see in the darkness of the early morning, while any cameras recording them or witnesses would have trouble identifying them. It was still dark, and they were completely covered from head to toe in black ski masks over their faces. Venezuelan accents carried across the street as they barked hurried orders at each other. John recognized their accents in the unmistakable chaos of an orchestrated smash and grab. "Fuck," John muttered, his old instincts roaring back to life despite the months he'd spent trying to leave them behind. His pulse quickened as he watched the gang work quickly, destroying and stealing everything they could in the small jewelry store. They smashed open glass cases with hammers, grabbing diamonds, gold chains, and high-end watches. The crisp sound of glass crunching was added to the cacophony. They had stolen over half of the store's most valuable merchandise in seconds. This was a mom-and-pop store. It had been there for 30 years, and this robbery would devastate their business and family. The glass shattered everywhere as the thieves continued to break into the remaining display counters, emptying their contents into black duffel bags. In less than 2 minutes, they had stolen over $3 million worth of jewelry. John tracked their movements to the best of his ability. Even though it was dark, he could tell from their movements that they had done this before. The leader was a large, overweight, yet physically strong man with what appeared to be a golden revolver strapped to his side. It gleamed in the blackness of the morning. He shouted orders in Spanish, keeping his crew in line. A rush of adrenaline surged through John. He remained motionless as he watched the chaos unfold across the street. He wasn't the sheriff anymore. He no longer had any authority. But damn if he didn't feel the urge to do something. His hand reflexively reached his hip, but his sidearm wasn't there. He hadn't worn it in months. 60 seconds, one of the gang members shouted, his voice carrying through the pitch-black early morning sky. They were almost done. John's eyes darted to his pickup truck parked just down the block. He could close the distance in under a minute and cut them off before they made their escape. But what then? He was alone, currently unarmed, and there were 5 of them armed, ruthless, and likely desperate. John heard the coffee shop manager call 911 as soon as the initial shock of witnessing the jewelry shop across the street being shattered and plundered by armed Venezuelan gang members wore off. But there was still no police presence. John knew they wouldn't arrive on time. John instinctively wanted to rush over to the active crime scene, but in a split second, his mind weighed the consequences. On one hand, he could draw fire to the coffee shop. He didn't want any bullets flying at the regulars or baristas who were currently watching behind the shop window in a mix of shock and the same curiosity most people have when driving by a car wreck. John also didn't have his gun on him. It was in the center console of his truck, parked down the street. Also, he was retired. This was no longer his responsibility. But he was there, and bad guys were destroying a local business right in front of him. The gang members were back in the SUV now, less than 3 minutes in the store. The SUV's engine revved as the leader gave one final look at the store. His crew threw their duffel bags loaded with the stolen jewels into the still-running SUV and jumped in. The leader was the last to enter. His eyes scanned the surroundings before jumping into the SUV passenger seat, carrying a duffel bag full of stolen diamonds and other jewelry. They all turned their headlamps off, and the SUV's tires squealed as it took off in the darkness of the morning.